petals and welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel, A Rose Between Pages. Rosie here. I know this is late, but welcome to my March and April wrap-up. I realised the other day that I'm very behind with my wrap-ups, and you guys probably don't really know what I've been reading, so I wanted to do these wrap-ups now. It is now July. I'm very behind. So I'm going to do March and April. In March I read 3 books. I completed a total of 1 challenge, and total 5-star reads in March was 1. I read 1,038 pages, and I bought a book on my Kindle called Devil in Connecticut. So the prompt, I think the prompt that I did was found on Bookstagram, I think that's the challenge I did. So these I don't actually own, like 2 of them I don't own. Call Me By Your Name. I did physically own this, but I don't see myself reading this again. So I went to a free little library and took it there and put it in a free little library. Basically what happens with my books that I don't think I'm going to read again, I either give them to my nieces or I give them to the free little library if I don't think they're suitable or too old for my nieces. Because my nieces range from age 10 to 12, so I have to be careful with them reading my books. I did give them Midnight Library the other day, actually. Great Gatsby, I had this on my Kindle. It was okay. And Boys in the Ballet, which I have here by Philip Fracassi. This was the 5-star. Okay. I will go further into detail. I only read 1 book in April, and that was Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I do own it. I'm gonna go get it in a second. I read 513 pages, and I completed 1 total challenge, which was a book with a pastel colour cover. So, Call Me By Your Name. These are my thoughts. This book was genuinely cute. How Elio thought / obsessed over Oliver was honestly just the cutest thing I read. I was wondering, like halfway through, I was wondering what was going to happen between them 2 because they had kissed, but they seemed quite distant with each other, and I was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? But the ending was very satisfying, as they stayed in touch and they stayed friends, which was amazing. This was a 3-star for me, and it was an LGBTQIA+ romance. It was about these 2 boys called Elio and Oliver, and basically Oliver had come to stay at Elio's father's guest house for people who come on holiday. Oliver was very, I remember Oliver being very closed off, and Elio was all happy and sunshines, and everybody knew him, and he was very extroverted compared to Oliver. So I did enjoy this. I read The Great Gatsby in 4 days. This was a 3.5 stars. The writing of this book was very beautiful. I mean, the descriptions of the characters and their surroundings was just so stunning to me. It was very poetical. Gatsby was a very mysterious man. However, his love and obsession for Daisy was actually really cute to me. I was kind of getting Wuthering Heights vibes. I've read Wuthering Heights and I quite enjoyed Wuthering Heights, and Great Gatsby just gave me those vibes in a sense. Except Gatsby wasn't as toxic as Heathcliff is. Before 75%, this book goes from 0 to 100, like, with the tension between the characters. I mean, there's a jealous husband, there's a tearful wife, and someone literally freaking dies. They get killed. It was a very sad ending, was this. I was not impressed with the ending. But certain books do that to you. Well, now we can talk about this beauty. So this is a religious horror about an orphanage, and basically things go downhill. It's got paranormal things, and it's got like a cult thing in it. It's also like got exorcist vibes as well, which I really loved. This was obviously the 5-star. I told you earlier that this was the 5-star. I loved this book and how fast paced it was. This was packed full of action, as it's literally one thing after another. It's a little gory and sad, which I absolutely adore in horror. Like, call me a sadist, but I love that in horror. This book was honestly incredible, yet it was gory, but it was also like very traumatizing. Characters are honestly so lovable, and the plot is so fast paced. I was finding it so hard to put this down when I was reading this. I read this in like 9 days. I could have read it faster though, but I had some other things that I was doing. Honestly, this book was so good. I honestly really enjoyed this. Loved the gore, loved the plot, loved the writing, and loved the characters. Everything about this book was so gripping. Would highly recommend if you like slashers and possession horrors. So if you're into that, then yes. Let's go on to my only April read, which is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. The reason why I said pastel colours on the cover, there's like a pastel colour there. It's just a really pretty cover. I do not regret reading this. Thought I'd try it because it's one of his fantasies, and I've read the first 2 of the Dark Tower series. I really enjoyed them. So I thought I'd try another fantasy of his. This book was okay at 25%. Like, I liked the characters and the events of the book. However, a big event just happened, so I thought the fantasy side of things would appear soon, which I wasn't disappointed with the fantasy side. I full on loved this. But the thing is that like halfway through I was wondering what was even the point of the first 200 pages. Like, I get you have to introduce the characters and introduce how they got introduced into this world, because Charlie and his dog Radar, at least she's not originally his dog. She's Mr. Bowditch's dog, is Radar. Radar was one of my favourite characters in this book. I loved Radar. She's a beautiful German Shepherd, and she's just so lovable. Like, how she's written in this book, I just loved Radar. I really did. And basically, Mr. Bowditch, he is actually a supernatural person. He's older than he's letting on. And basically he's got this hidden portal to this fantasy world where there's like different types of fairy tales, and this has like references to Jack and the Beanstalk. Bless you. Oh gosh, there was a princess one in this as well. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones there were, but there was quite a few fairy tales in this that I really enjoyed. The fact that they were referenced in this, and how Stephen King wrote this. Looking back at my rating, 4 stars, I want to give it a 4.5 now, because I've had some time to think, and I did enjoy this, and I do want to read it again actually. It's just at the beginning, it introduces you to the characters, introduces you to Mr. Bowditch, and basically he gives Charlie everything. Like all his money, all his land, and the fantasy-esque land at the bottom of this well. So it was really enjoyable. There's also Rumpelstiltskin in this. I just remembered there's Rumpelstiltskin in this, and he's a twat in this. He's actually not a very nice person, as usual. But now looking back at my review, because I sat here wondering what was the point in the first 200 pages. I mean, it's Stephen King. You have to introduce the characters first before you dive into the plot. And that's what he was doing in the first 200 pages, and basically talking about how Charlie came across this world. But he did go into a lot of detail with the backstory, but again, it's Stephen King. It wouldn't be a Stephen King book if he didn't do this. There's night soldiers in this who are undead. I fucking loved that. I really did. And the flight killer. They have very interesting concepts to say that. The flight killer reminds me of the Goblin King from Lord of the Rings. It was like, reading this was like a crossover between Lord of the Rings, How to Train Your Dragon, and The Walking Dead, all put in one book. Like, along with fairy tales. You can't go wrong, really. It was a very satisfying ending. I loved the aspects of many fairy tales and stories merged into one world, as well as some of my favourite movies and my favourite TV shows. So I highly recommend, if you like Lord of the Rings, How to Train Your Dragon, and The Walking Dead, because it has some aspects of this. I remember how the night soldiers were described was very... I'm not going to say How to Train Your Dragon, actually. I'm going to say Gladiator. Because they was in a ring and they was literally fighting to the death. So that was a thing. But that was the only book I read in April. I mean, this was 577 pages long. I think I might have been having like either a mental health thing going on, or maybe I was busy studying while I was reading this. I cannot remember, but I do remember that these two were my favourites of March and April. So Boys in the Valley won March, Fairy Tale won April. I'm not going to go into too much detail because obviously I've already done my May winner and my June winner because it's not July. So we had Boys in the Valley versus Fairy Tale, and I obviously chose Boys in the Valley because I enjoyed that a lot more than Fairy Tale. Even though I loved both of these stories, at the time, Fairy Tale was a 4-star. It is now a 4.5 star for me. And Boys in the Valley is a 5-star. So it won by like half a star. And then we had Hero of Ages versus Boys in the Valley. It won, I think, by 1/4 star. Did Boys in the Valley. Can't say who the next two competitors are yet because I haven't done my May and June wrap up for you guys. So I will do them very soon so that you guys have something to watch and you have things to watch. I'm currently doing... Right, let's talk about what vlogs I'm doing right now. I'm currently doing a vlog revolving around 3 library books. Basically, I'm reading 3 completely different books to what I usually read, except from the crime one. The other 2 are completely different to what I usually read. And 3 different authors that I've not read from. Danielle Steele, I've wanted to read from for a while, because Danielle Steele was my nana's favourite author when she was alive, so it might bring back some nostalgia of what she was telling me while she was reading them. She had the entire collection when she was alive. I don't know what happened to them, but I'm going to make her proud by reading Danielle Steele very soon. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on a recent read as well, which involves a few books that I've already mentioned in this. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked it, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Comment below what you read in March and April, and comment below what your favourite and your worst or least favourite was of this. Obviously, my favourites were Boys in the Valley and Fairy Tale. I didn't really have a least favourite. I liked all of the books that I read. I would have to say my least favourite was Call Me By Your Name, but it was still a 3-star. To anybody who loved that book, it was still a 3-star, and I still enjoyed reading it, and I thought it was really adorable to read. And I read it in the right time, because we were coming up to summer, and Call Me By Your Name is like set in summer, so I think I read it at the right time. Let me know any romance recommendations as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay luscious, guys. Bye!